Go start your little Slack community and tell me how that goes in 2 months. Because there are so many things to think about when it comes to, again, gathering people together. So the tech it's like a building, so people can come in and it'll dictate the experience. But the building isn't the community. It's the connection, it's the people that are there, it's the conversations that are happening and things like that.
Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. Here we go. Oh my goodness, we hit the button and we are going. Man, this thing is about to catch on fire. So grab your fire extinguishers. And if you don't know where they are, consider this your reminder, your friendly Casey reminder to go figure out where it is, because you're going to need it for this episode and hopefully not anything else. All right, who's my guest today? Well, you've seen him. If you're in the community, if you're in the Connect to Market community, he is a co-host with me. He is the community whisperer, and I'm excited to have him on here and learn from him, crack that brain open and just start eating those brains and learning from this guy. So who is he? Who is he, Casey? Well, let me tell you about it. So first of all, he is a serial entrepreneur. He's a chief community officer, and he's a connection chemist, community builder, the ultimate community builder. And he has created over 40 communities. He's even sold some. And your beloved moderator of the Connect to Market community, founder of Bridgio, Paul Jones. Welcome to the show, sir.
Wow. Thanks, Casey. Good to be here. I'm very excited. I love this whole podcast series. The guests you've had on so far have been amazing. I think this is a really cool movement and a really good paradigm shift that's needed today, right now.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me go ahead and put on the giant foam finger and ask you the question, Paul.
The number one.
What is the number one thing that marketers need to do in order to connect to their market?
Connect to your market. So
yeah,
the number one thing is, I think you can't go to market anymore. So you look on LinkedIn, everything is go to market. And it's like, all right, I got invited to this party. It's a business casual party, but I'm going to show up I'm going to go to the party, but I'm not going to go the way, I'm not really going to connect with that party if you don't know the theme of the party, if you don't dress up for the party, whatever that might be. So big difference between going to market and connecting to your market. That is the number one thing. And oftentimes what I see from building communities for companies, how often people they're in the market. They've went to the market. They're there, but they aren't connecting with the market. Big difference.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm thinking about one client right now. We built them a community. They knew who they wanted to sell to. And if you look at the stats, most businesses, like 9 out of 10 businesses, are going to fail because they're not going to have product market fit, and they fail to go to market in some kind of way. And so the concept of connecting to your market is really important. I had a client, they knew who they were selling to. So their ideal client persona was solid. They knew they were building for HR, but so they were in the market, but the way that they were talking about their solution wasn't connecting with the market, right? And so that's where marketers really come into play. Is you have to first understand your persona at a deep level. And I think it's not understand the pain that we solve. It's understand the entire persona, understand the constellation of problems that persona is facing that don't even relate to your point solution or whatever it is that you're marketing, that don't even relate to that. So getting down on a deep empathetic level with them and understand the entire constellation of their problems is going to help you message and connect with them much better. You're going to be able to create, sentences. You're going to be able to create sayings that really connect with your market. Another quick story. So I was part of a SaaS. Yeah, I was part of a SaaS dental software company, and we hired this really great marketer. And for the first 6 months, he spent interviewing the founders, interviewing employees, and interviewing customers. And we were going to conferences and shows a lot. And he had come up with this whole like messaging architecture. And we had I remember going to a show and I was wearing a shirt that said, "Dentists are people too." And
Yeah.
I mean, that right there connected so hard with the market that people were coming to our booth like, "Hey, how can I get one of these shirts?" They were loving it. They felt when you connect with your market, your ICP is going to feel seen by you, seen, heard, and respected by you. So we had just lines of people wanting these shirts because so often you go to the dentist and they're just, people hate going to them.
Yeah.
They feel like they want to cause them pain. They're like, no, I am a person, right? And that is what had come out of that research. So long-winded way of answering. There's a big difference between going to your market and then connecting with your market.
You know, the imagery of going to a toga party dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, right?
There you go.
But you know what? You can, anyone who's gone to a networking event has probably experienced this in real time, in real life. Just going into a room of people chatting, you could literally stand in the corner and not talk to anyone. Now, maybe you or I might come over and be like, "Hey, how's it going? You know, why is this person standing all by themselves?" So maybe someone will come say hi, but not necessarily. And so you could be in that room. Hey, I went to that networking event and you could have met no one. So like the ability to just, proximity won't do it, right? Proximity just doesn't cut it. It's kind of like that old fallacy of if you build it, they will come. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. It's not a mythical baseball field, you know?
Yeah. Often they don't come. And plus you don't have angels helping you out.
No, you don't. Or whatever those baseball players were. Yeah.
Maybe I'm mixing up Angels in the Outfield too.
That was a good movie. Yeah,
that was a good movie.
Kid, you got an angel out there. Good one, man. So, but what does it take? What does it take to do that? To shift from going to connecting? You know, how do I start connecting when I get there?
Well, yeah, totally. And I think that for a founder, this is where things get hard. I can think about one of the first business that I ever built was a paddleboarding business. And I was coming off of just river guiding in Jackson, Wyoming. And so I took a lot of that idea. We moved to Omaha, Nebraska, and I was out. We had no money. So I bought this $50 windsurfing surfboard and I was using kayak paddles and I just wanted a paddleboard. It was a new thing. It was just coming on the scene and the Midwest didn't really know about it. And I was out on a lake paddling, standing up, and cars were just like screeching, pulling over, like Jesus walking on water almost, like never seen this before.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, oh, there's something here. There's something that maybe I can, start a paddleboarding business. And so that's what I ended up doing. And when I got really excited about it. And so I built the business model, and the business model was, okay, we're going to paddleboard rivers because I love rivers. And so this is how this is going to work. You're going to show up at the top of the river. We're going to get on paddleboards. We're going to float down the river and we're going to pick you up and then take you back up. And luckily for me, I had made acquaintances with someone that was teaching at the local university business school. And she's like, Paul, you really need a business model or a business plan. You really need a business plan. Let me give you the outline. So she gave me the outline and she asked me a whole bunch of questions. And what was interesting is what I thought the business should be after going through the business plan, it was like, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to buy a van. I'm going to have to pay someone to sit in that van. I'm going to have to transport people and have insurance for it. So all of a sudden my costs went considerably up. And so I had to switch the model. So I changed the model, and the model became, you meet us at the lake. So now I don't have to transport anybody. We teach you how to do it. We go out on it. We take you on a little tour and then we bring you back. And that worked. Like the numbers worked. So from a business model perspective, what I thought I wanted to build turned out to not, it was the same theme, but it turned out to be something nearly completely differently. And it was all dictated by, profitability and the numbers and all of that. So I think that going to market is very similar. A lot of times we think we put the product first, or we put the idea first. We think it's going to be the solution without having spent a lot of time with our ideal persona. At this point, I've built 45 different communities for companies. And I would say more often than not, either the ICP is the ideal client persona is wrong, or the messaging is totally wrong, and totally off. And so I think that rather than thinking about the solution first, you as a founder or as a marketer have to spend, you gotta fly in, parachute down behind enemy lines, and you have to spend time there first. And by doing that, I think that your connect to market model is going to change and it's going to morph. And the thing is, I have a few communities. We started doing this in 2020, but I have a few communities we're still building today. And what we're
Wow.
finding is that the messaging is constantly changing, constantly. So it's not like you go to market and then connect with your market and then bounce and then scale. It is that this constant, you have to have constant presence, not just presence in the market, but conversations in your market, and having conversations with your personas and understanding how they're looking at everything. So I think that's one is
Yeah.
just, is it a persona problem? Are you in the wrong? Are you going to fail because you don't have product market fit? Because are you selling to the wrong customer? But then number two, is your messaging wrong? Is what you're saying to them not hitting, not resonating with them? And I think the only way to get resonance is to spend time in your market. And really what that looks like, there's a million different things that can, how that can manifest itself. You can start a podcast, use
Yeah.
Ringmaster, start a podcast. That's a great way to have deep conversations with people. You can start a community, start building a community. You can start building roundtables, whatever you can do to bring your customer to the table to have real conversations with them is going to yield, massive dividends down the road and save you a ton of time and effort.
Let's talk about one of your favorite ways to connect, one of your favorite ways to spend time. Tell me about these roundtables.
Well, this is so I guess here's the backstory.
Yeah.
I was facilitating a lot of executive networking events.
Sure.
And it was always really fun. I liked doing it in person. I remember thinking, oh man, I could take this to conferences, because I was going to all these conferences, and there were a lot of entrepreneurial conferences like SaaStr and stuff. And we would listen to these great speeches and speakers talking about how successful they were. But I was getting the most value from connecting with other entrepreneurs around me and chatting with them about what the current market conditions were and things like that. And so I always felt that events could be way better, rather than just sage on stage type stuff. But how do we create real connection? And then I realized as COVID hit, because I was part of these networking companies facilitating these types of events. And I was looking at the churn on the back end, and a lot of people were churning out. And when they would churn out, they would say, I love the events, I love the experience, but I'm not talking to the people that I want to be talking to.
Right.
I'm not talking to my customer. And that's when I thought, we could build a strategic referral, or not referral, but we could build a strategic network for a business. And one of the, obviously challenges in Connect to Market is you're building all these relationships. How are you going to maintain those relationships?
Right.
Right. Dunbar's number is 150.
Can you explain that?
Yeah. So, really great, social psychologist looked at how many relationships we can actually maintain. Like, how many people can you maintain a relationship with? And And you're obviously going to have, your family is going to be deeper. There's depth to different things, but in terms of the number of relationships you can manage, 150 is roughly the number, right? So when you are a founder or when you are a marketer, you're going to be having way more relationships than that to maintain. And so it's going to be difficult for you to have one-to-one conversations. So we have to be able to figure out a way to provide more value to them aside from some, paywall and consuming content like that.
Yeah.
That is so far away from connect. And so what do we do? Well, the answer to that is build a community, build roundtables, create spaces for conversations to happen. I like to focus in on create spaces where you can discuss where the sidewalk ends, right? AI can only take us to what we know, but where do we go for new ideas? Where do we go for new perspectives, new awareness? And it's going to be through social learning. It's going to be through social learning theory, the mutual engagement and uncertainty, coming to the table and saying, I'm uncertain about these things. What could be the variables that lead to possible solutions? How do we expand our awareness? And the best way to do that is in a social setting. So
Yeah.
I like to create experiences where learning is happening socially amongst each other, and it's a unique experience. And that to me is really what community is community is learning from others and helping others. So coming to a table and offering even a different perspective. Again, you're not offering an answer because a lot of times there is no answer yet. So being able to explore and again, increase your awareness. And so I think that building a community is one of the best ways to connect to your market, because one of the things that it is inherent with managing and building a community is, okay, conversations are going to happen, but what are the conversations going to be?
Right.
The conversations are going to be, hey, what's everyone using AI for these days? Right? And so there's a great book, Influencer, amazing book. It talks about influencing the masses, how to get, behavior change at scale. And one of the keys is this idea of positive deviance. So whenever you have a behavior that you need to change, or that people are changing, whatever's changing in their lives, if you look at an end value of people, there's going to be a small percentage of them that are doing something differently than everybody else, and they're getting positive results. And this is why we've been so successful as a human species. One, because we're social, but two, because we're able to spread positive deviant behaviors easily across the network because we're social. So that's the whole point, and that's the whole idea. And if you think about it, my other point today was your CRM is not helping you connect to your market at all. Everyone in your CRM, everyone's just siloed. There is no interconnectedness inside of that thing. So how do we take your CRM, the thing that's ironically enough, it's a customer relationship management system. No, it's really just a database at this point. Like, how is it helping you actually manage your relationships? Well, when we think about relationships at scale, when we're talking about Dunbar's number, community comes in for that win because it's able to create value for everybody else inside that conversation. So now it's not about your one-to-one conversations, but it's about your many-to-many that you create, and you create this space where those, if it's under your umbrella as a company, right, you're getting the benefit of creating a space where value is created by the members themselves. And I think this is the future of marketing. This is the future of connection, connecting to market. I think it's, rather than calling through a list and saying, hey, this is the pain you're experiencing, do you want to buy? It's more so, hey, I want you to come into our community and start having conversations about whatever it is you want to have conversations about. So you get to be the brand that I like to call these companies broker brands, because the value that you're providing isn't content anymore.
Yeah.
It's connection.
Mhm.
You're the one that's brokering relationships, key relationships between people. And what comes out of a lot of we do a lot of virtual roundtables. I like to call them brain trusts, or I like to call them webinauts. A
Yeah.
webinar is
Classic.
that's the exact opposite of a webinar. But what comes out of those a lot of the times is people will come to us and say, "Hey, how much time did you spend on figuring out, who was in my breakout room?" Because I needed to hear that today. I met this person. This is what they're doing, and I didn't realize it, but I needed that to hear that person, and I needed to connect with that person. And it's random at this point, but that's like that architecting serendipity between people
Mhm.
and that's the connection chemistry of building these types of community events that are driven by social learning, is that your ICP comes out of that just by gathering your ideal client personas together, the right ones together. It's like taking two molecules that are very attracted to each other, hydrogen and oxygen, right? You put those in a little confined space and boop, you're going to get H2O. That's just what happens. So when you start playing connection chemistry as a brand and you start to shift your thinking from, I need content consumption, to I want to broker, who do I want to broker relationships between? Then I think it becomes really fun, because now it's all about bringing these folks together, creating connection with them. That becomes your value, the value that you're delivering as a marketer. And then you get to learn so much from what's happening inside of that whole motion.
And it's powerful, and I love it because you're passionate about this, and we both love connection. But the word community, it gets used a lot, and I know I've used community, roundtable. Uh, are this can you kind of clear up this cloud? Does everything count in community? I know a lot of people, you
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I'm creating a community." What are you doing? What?
Yeah. Good question. Uh, it is overused. It's something I think about a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
like, all right, community is what? It's your local community. That's what we are going to think about. We're going to think
Yep.
about the YMCA,
Yeah.
like that's old school.
Right.
Um, Today, community is a big Slack channel that you're managing.
Right.
That could be considered a community.
You're in Canada, going down to the Legion over
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. And back then, there's a, I forget what it's called. Oh yeah, on Netflix, Join or Die.
Join or Die on Netflix, huh?
It's a great documentary about essentially what Putnam was describing in Bowling Alone. But basically in Bowling Alone, it was that all of our innovation was driven and has been driven by our connection with each other. So
Mm.
Steve Jobs and Woz met at a computer club, and then you get Apple, right? So, and there's countless examples like that. And so I think all of these things are pockets of community. And that's why it becomes so hard to really know, like a lot of brands, a lot of big brands are getting into community, building these big Slack channels or Discord channels or whatever it might be. And that's, you're talking about thousands upon thousands and thousands of people. But at the end of the day, I think that the best way to define community is that it's gathering people together, and the people are what bring the value and give the value to each other. So they're the ones that bring the resources, and you're just creating space where the connection can happen, where the community and connection cannot be separated. They have to be together. So
Got it.
creating the space where community and connection happen and occur, and it can be done a million different ways. And that's why it's such a broad term right now. And I think, it's probably overused. I think we should probably come up with more descriptive words that describe certain types of different communities. You could argue a club is a community for sure.
Yeah.
All the way over to a Slack channel. So it is really, really diverse. And to your point, a roundtable is a roundtable a community. I think you have to do some things to enhance that. Again, you've got to create that connection. So how do you create people continuing conversations rather than just coming around a table, having a discussion, then leaving? How do we create more connection element inside of that? And that's really how you transform something into a community. A lot of what we've done and a lot of what we do is we call it building a community, but honestly, it takes a long time before you get to that community stage where again people are bringing resources in, and they're creating connection inside of it. Aside from that, it's just events,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. Just like you could be in a networking room and not actually connect, you could create what you think is a community, but it really is just, a mechanism. Let's talk tech because I know you're really passionate about this. One of the first things I asked you, and what almost everyone asks me when I also share, this message about community, they go, "What platform is this on? Oh, what are you building it on? Oh, have you heard of that XYZ platform? I hear that's the one to use. Which one do you use?"
Yeah. Oh man, where do we start?
For those only listening, I think I saw like 9 eye rolls in the last half a second from that question because it sounds like you've gotten that question a lot too.
Well, I think that people, how do I bring this in? So a group that I built, a brain trust I built was a group of CMOs, and we met for like 2 years,
Nice.
once a month. And I remember asking them, what's the future of marketing? And they all said community. But I had also built a community of community managers, and they were meeting once a month. And all the community managers that were reporting to their marketers just hated it because the marketers were chomping at the bit to start sending white papers and start generating MQLs from the community. And if you talk to a community manager, I love talking to them because they understand their job is to create connection, right?
Yeah.
So all of that to say is I think that most people don't understand what community actually is. And so they look at the tech and they think that the tech is the community, or that the tech is going to bring the community together. And that is simply not true. Like, okay, go start a Slack channel, and everyone thinks it's easy. Go start your little Slack community and tell me how that goes in 2 months. Because there are so many things to think about when it comes to, again, gathering people together. So the tech is it's like a building, so people can come in and it'll dictate the experience, but the building isn't the community. It's the connection, it's the people that are there, it's the conversations that are happening and things like that. So that's what's more important. But from a tech perspective, that's another thing that's really hard too, is if you look at like community numbers and things like that, like, so traditional community, and I'm talking about the Slack, I said traditional, that's not traditional. New age community, Slack, Discord, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to get like, you're going to have a lot of lurkers. Most of the people inside your community are going to be lurkers. And then there's going to be a few that are contributors. And that's generally like 2 to 5%. You're crushing it if you're 5%. 2% is like mostly where you're at. So if you're looking at 2%, most of the content being generated by your community is going to be from this 2% of people. In order to get enough content to make the community interesting, you're going to have a shit ton of people in there, right? And
Right.
so these texts, all these different text things, like it's not as easy as building a building. And then it goes back to our angels, or our you build it, they will come.
Right.
It's that's the tech. Like, no, that's not necessarily going to work.
Just because
So
you made a group on a platform doesn't mean it will fill itself up.
right, right.
Yeah.
And we want to believe that's true. And it's often, and like for me, I like to ideate. So I get really excited about thinking about what could be built.
Yeah.
And just over the years, I've just had to learn over and over and over again that my initial thoughts are wrong.
Yeah.
Use that energy to then connect to market and then shape and figure out what it is it's going to be. But it's going to take It's going to take some time. And, messaging inside of your market, that just takes time. But you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not spending the time in the places where your ideal persona is at and actually getting in and having conversations. It would be, you use an example of going to a networking event, right? And standing by the wall. Just because of proximity doesn't mean you're going to get value. I would also say when you're at the tables and you're networking, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that networking is just puking up their value prop to everybody.
Wait, it's not?
Yeah, right. That's why networking is kind of gross.
Hi, I'm Casey. I make podcasts.
Right. Hey.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Casey. I'm gonna go get a drink. Nice meeting you.
Yeah. You want to be able to, it goes back to How to Win Friends and Influence People, Carnegie. Be interested in them.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson said people are infinitely interesting. So coming in with a curious mindset and just asking the questions and being curious, I think goes a long way. And most people don't do that.
People are interesting, but if we ask the wrong question, they're not. Or if we aren't curious, like that'll fill itself up. Before we get into that, I just remember that on the tech question, I just remember you saying like, don't even worry about the tech. In fact, don't do it too soon.
Oh yeah.
That'll kill the community even.
Yeah.
And wait a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yes. I have a good example of this.
Yeah.
So when we first initially start building, it's just Zoom meetings. That's it.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is all the communities I've ever built, the participants inside the community will inevitably say to my client, we want a way to stay in touch with people in between events. And this is like Ford's quote, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So what I found when I was first doing this in the beginning, it was like, oh, sweet. Let's spin up a Slack. Let's spin up a Discord. Let's spin up Heartbeat, Circle, whatever it is. And let's spin up a LinkedIn group. And so we would do it. We would do what they wanted. And then crickets.
No one uses it.
Nobody freaking uses it.
Nobody uses the faster horse.
Nope. Yeah. And so what are they actually asking for?
Right.
What is it that they actually need? What is it that they are trying to express? And so that's why I say you don't like, I'm going to build a community. And so then you go and you build some tech and like, there's so much there. Like oftentimes I remember the first, Slack that I ever built, it had like 15 channels in it.
Yeah.
And I got people in there and then they were immediately overwhelmed, didn't know what to do, didn't know what the conversations were. So like I totally killed it because I over-engineered it. And I just was like, oh, this channel would be fun. Oh, this channel would be fun, right? And so when you go into that asynchronous world, you have to take it really slow. And you should have already spent a lot of time on phone calls, at least 150 plus phone calls with the people you want to build a community with. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why I say don't ever start with the tech. Start low tech, do things that don't scale. We kind of know these ideas. Just make sure that you're spending your time understanding that persona. And what do I mean by that, dude? Lately, that's changed a lot for me because I've been testing this fractional. I built a fractional community 4 years ago.
Yeah,
with a client. Yeah, that's how we met. That's right. Yeah. You were always. I was always bummed when you weren't on the calls.
Right, because I was slightly irreverent and interactive.
Yeah, you were irreverent. You were interacted. You got the party started. You were always just talking trash
in the chat, saying goofy shit, right?
Yeah, it was fun, dude. It was really fun.
I'm like, well, this guy's pretty cool. He's not instantly like blocking me from the group, so I guess I'll just keep being me,
Yeah, I liked it. I always liked it. It was fun. I think you probably came to what, like 12?
Yeah, a bunch.
It was good.
Bunch. It was one of those things where, and So for our own communities that we're creating together now, like I can relate, it's on the calendar, you want to go, and then, or sometimes well, you're like, sort of neutral to it. If something has to step on it, it steps on it.
Yep.
But if nothing was there, I'd go, and I never regretted going. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it got to the point where after I went to enough of them, I was like, no, this is actually pretty good. But early on, I'm like, I don't know what to expect, but I'm gonna go. And I always ended up having some kind of cool connections with other people and a bunch of LinkedIn messages happening, and some fun in the process. So I understand now what we create, and my hope is that we create that for the rest of the people in the Connect to Market community. So, what what would be your one piece of advice when creating community? Because I know we're running out of time, but if I were to ask you this, like terrible question, because like how do you boil it all down into one thing? Like, what do you think you would say?
I honestly, I think that the it's just the mindset of I want to spend my time here.
Hmm.
I enjoy the conversations. I'm thinking about one client in particular right now. They're big, but the founder knows so many of people that aren't even using his service by name. It's because he thoroughly enjoys spending time and having discussions with his ICP.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, and when I compare them across all my clients, they are doing so well because they're not just looking at the list of community that we're building for them. They know that list of people by name. They've had conversations with them. They're tracking their attendance. They're reaching out. They are truly trying to give value first. And that's what I would say in summary is give value. It's the go-giver mindset, right? Give value first and really enjoy spending time with those folks.
Yeah.
And that's going to have its own cycle. I was going to say earlier, when you're dealing with a persona and you're doing these phone calls and you're actually connecting with your market, you're going to go through phases. Initially, it's really exciting. You're in discovery mode. You're learning a lot. You're making a lot of great connections. And then over time, the dust is going to settle and you're going to start to understand what you dislike about this persona. Like you just want to shake their heads and be like, knock this off, like I hate. So you're going to feel frustration. You're going to feel a little resentment. And so that's you coming into complexity with things you don't understand with that persona. And maybe there's more learning that needs to take place between you and what they're doing. And then beyond that complexity is the simplicity. It's like, oh, okay, I now truly deeply understand this persona, what makes them complex, and now I can be on the other side of that and just be who we're going to be, right? And
Yeah.
I think most businesses, because they aren't spending that time connecting to their market and being really curious about them, they're gonna come with their little point solution and like this is our pain statement. And then they're going to bounce off the complexity of the entire constellation of that persona. And they're never going to make it through to the other side where it just becomes a simple message to people or whatever that might be. So I think that, yeah, curiosity and having a giving mindset first and just enjoying, like I was going to start a business. This isn't, I don't mean to throw shade on, there's certain people that you don't necessarily want to sell to. And I was going to start something where I was selling a product to HR. And I was like, after a few conversations, I'm like, I just don't enjoy, the conversation. Like it's not giving me energy,
Yeah, and maybe it's someone else it does, but same
Oh,
thing,
totally. Yeah.
same thing with attorneys, when you spend more updating your agreement with their revisions than, on the attorney fees than you do on what you get from them. Maybe you don't work with attorneys either, but
And
yeah,
some people are going to freaking love
but
that.
some
Right.
people will love it. Yeah.
So, and that's a whole nother thing like that. We could spend a whole nother hour talking about how to build your business around
Yeah.
people that are energized by interacting with that type of ICP. I think that's something we don't even really consider,
Sure.
but there's so much more innovation that can come from that because if you're getting energized by the conversations you're having with folks and you enjoy the topics that are regularly discussed, man, you're going to build better products. You're ultimately going to be a way better company, and you're going to make a way bigger difference
Yeah.
than just like, hey, I came up with this idea and I want to sell it.
Right. Night and day different. Paul, as always, you are the man, sir. Thank you so much for coming on here. Where can people reach out and connect?
Find me on LinkedIn, Paul Jones. Love to connect with you there, have conversations, and then if you're a marketer, join our Connect to Market. Casey's building this awesome group. We just had our meeting yesterday.
It was so good.
That was great.
Yeah,
Man, some
so
great
good.
people were there. Yeah, that was awesome.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. This has been such a great conversation. Paul, again, thank you so much for this. So many great notes out of this. I love when you and I chat. We get inspired. We share great stories, and we're creating this really cool thing together, Connect to Market. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to see where we go.
All right, everybody. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Connect to Market Pod. We will see you all next time. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connect2market.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasts and communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.